feelings with the boys at all, would it?
I think not. Just this, the word from Buddy's mother and father is that Buddy did never split with the Crickets. They split with him.
Yes.
I think that something simple like that, none of the details, of course.
No.
I think because actually the Crickets may get back over there. I hope they do.
Yes, well, they've had a hit. Please don't ever change over there, and they came over on a tour on the strength of that.
Jerry comes by to see us occasionally, and he can't keep the tears back any time that he's here. I think that he would come by to see us more often, only I think it reminds him so much.
Who did Buddy play with, such as on that one date when he was flying to on the tour there? Who backed him in them days?
He had called one of the disc jockeys here in Lubbock, Waylon Jennings, who was trying to get out on record, and he was a pretty good singer and a pretty good rhythm guitar player. He called him to come join him there. This boy very nearly was on the same plane with Buddy at the time of the plane crash, and he joined the group there to play for Buddy, and Tommy Alsop, isn't that one of them? And I don't know who else.
Yes.
But
I've heard of
Waylon Jennings, one of our disc jockeys here, he was young himself. He was a little younger than Buddy, actually. He was a married fellow, however. And he went to join Buddy and was going to be one of the Crickets. He and Tommy Alsop. And, of course, you know the story from there.
Yes.
But they tossed a coin to see whether Waylon Jennings or Big Bopper would get on the plane. And Big Bopper was the one who won. Or did he win, you see?
Yes.
And
how do you feel about people who sing in Buddy's style? Do you dislike it, or do you think it tends to
actually, Phil, we feel proud if somebody wants to sing like Buddy.
Have you met people like Bobby V?
Actually, Bobby V has changed. His singing has changed a lot. I don't think it's as good as it used to be.
No.
But when he first started singing like Buddy, it was a thrill to us to know that he wanted to. I don't think, now, basically, it isn't good for the artist. It doesn't help them. I think it's a little bit, it goes against them a little bit.
Yes. We had Bobby, of course, did It's Raining in My Heart on an LP. Very much time. I couldn't tell him when he did Every Day. I couldn't tell that it wasn't.
That's right.
They were so close, you know. And
don't you think he's gotten away from that?
He's got away from it now. He toured with England with the Crickets, funny enough, Bobby V. Although he didn't do a lot of numbers on stage with them. They do quite a few Buddy numbers, like That'll Be the Day. In England we have a chap called Mike Berry. You know of him, I think.
Yes, that's right.
He did a tribute to Buddy.
He sent us
you sent him a letter, I think. And he toured with the Crickets and did one or two of Buddy's numbers, like I'm Gonna Love You Too, you know, and all that kind of numbers.
Well, this is our opinion. Actually, and factually, it isn't good for the artist to do that. I think there's a lot of criticism toward them. However, we had no objections whatsoever and felt rather proud. There was one DJ up here at Dallas that claimed to be Buddy Holly's brother, and then he went to another radio station far removed from that one and claimed to be his cousin. Well, everybody said, looks like that would make you mad. I said, no, that's all right. If he liked Buddy that well and he wants to claim kin to Buddy, why, it's all right with me. I don't get mad about things like that, angry about things like that. I think we feel like that. We feel rather proud to think that they would want to.
There are so many, though, aren't there? We have a chap called Adam Faith who originally started with numbers. Of course, they always start with Buddy's style,
right.
And then they kind of go off on a limb. But they have to go to Buddy's style to get known.
It may be a good start for them. That's right. There's Tommy Rowe who did the same thing.
A chap called Adam Faith. He must have been.
Yes, we have.
His first hit was "What Do You Want If You Don't Want Money," and it was typical. Very typical of It Doesn't Matter Anymore. More or less the same, exactly the same style. He sang in the same style as well, and he said "baby" and all that, you know, just like Buddy used to.
Don't you think this, Bill, that these groups who haven't got a contract yet and are wanting one, but they play a lot, they get together and play a lot, they're naturally going to play the records they hear, and they're going to copy that style a whole lot. Yes. Because maybe someone whom they love, like they love maybe Baby or Peggy Sue, well, they want to play that.
Yes.
And they naturally are going to play it more or less the style of the boy who sang it. And that, I think, could be one of the reasons why when they do get around to getting a song out themselves, that it has that sound many times when maybe they don't especially want it to, or maybe they do. Maybe their idea is that. I don't know.
One of the closest to really copy Buddy's idea and sound was Tommy Rowe. Did you hear Sheila? That was just about as close as you could get to Peggy Sue, wasn't it?
You'd be surprised at the last year who have tried to copy Buddy's style, you know.
Well, you've got Tommy Rowe there, have you? Has Bobby V or Tommy Rowe, have you ever met them?
No, not at.
Well, do you know, when Bobby V came over on a tour and I went to see him, as I go to see a lot of the people whenever I can, he said, well, now, he said, just now I'd like to do a Buddy Holly number, and a big cheer goes up in the auditorium. That's true, that. And it shows they're getting popularity from Buddy's fame.
Well, there's quite a few boys from Amarillo, which isn't just a 2 hours drive from here, and in Lubbock too, who they say when they go on a program and put on a show, all they can hear is hollering for do Buddy Holly numbers, do Buddy Holly numbers.
Look at me, that's Buddy's, and this one here is a cricket's number, Hollywood Girl, isn't it?
Yes.
Where's that? Who wrote that one?
Bobby V will have a new LP out, supposed to within about 30 days with all Buddy's numbers.
And one of the main songs in the Bobby V LP that's coming out is Buddy's song, and it's written about Buddy. Now this will be in the next LP that Bobby V is putting out. About 9 numbers of Buddy's.
There was one out not long after the plane crash, sang by somebody about it had the words in it of the 3 singers.
The 3 stars.
Did you have that one?
Yes.
It didn't go down very well in England. They don't like.
More.
No.
They call it more morbid. They had another one out. Somebody did a morbid one not so long ago. It wasn't about Buddy. It was about somebody else.
Well, you're not thinking about the one Mike Berry did, are you? Mike Berry did one that had just a little bit of a weird sound.
No, it wasn't.
There was quite a bit of criticism here about it. However, I don't know about over there. But actually, we didn't mind because we knew that Mike.
There was one called "Tell Laura I Love Her" about somebody in a stock car or something. That didn't go down very well. That was, and there was another one by this chap who did Mr. Bassman, Johnny Symbol.
Johnny Symbol.
I don't know what it was called, but they sometimes don't go down very well. Now that proves, in my opinion, that this great fan following that Buddy has isn't morbid, because if it was, it'd get called down.
Well, I think so too. There is a selling potential there. The quality is good. That's right.
If you could, in England, in the north of England, we drop our H's sometimes, and I don't really know.
Oh yes, I have.
But they're a lot worse than me, and they speak a real northern like, and it's fantastic. You know, you can get up in any hall, in any club, and see any group, and they always get up and they say, "Would like to do a Buddy Holly number now," just like that, and it sounds so funny, and they all do it. It's either Chuck Berry, they say Chuck Berry, or Buddy Holly, and they drop their H's, and it just shows you that they say that to an adult crowd or any crowd, and everybody knows. They don't need to explain who it is. Something like the national papers, they can mention Buddy Holly without any fear of not adults, anybody not knowing who he is. You would never get the New York Times mentioning a lot of rock and roll people.
No, you
I
wouldn't.
should think that somebody like Elvis Presley would be about the most mentioned.
And just a bare mention then, if they mention them at all, it's in
A little bit of a slur sometimes.
slanderous.
Well, no, it's not like that in England. We're such a small, compact country that everybody knows. You can mention Buddy Holly or the Beatles. I've said to many adults who call rock and roll and that, and I say, well, there's some really talented people around, and I say, well, who do you like? And they seem, some of these adults, they seem to tap their feet around for the Beatles, and they say, oh, I like Buddy Holly, and people like that. It is mainly the kids, but everybody knows in England. Everybody is, as I was telling Mr. Holly here, it's not underneath the surface, it's really splashed out, like you can see in this paper. In America, it's probably like Billboard. It's a kind of a trade magazine, really. But in England, the kids generally are interested in the stars and the artists. Now, as I say, in England now, the big craze at the moment is the Beatles. For the last 7 years, we've had Cliff Richard and the Shadows, and they've been they couldn't go wrong. They were the Elvis Presley of England, and they've gone along that now. For the first time in 6 years, there has been another force to reckon with, and that's these people called the Beatles. They have funny haircuts, and high white collars, and funny Undertaker suits on, and tight trousers and high heel shoes. And the kids around, they dress like the Beatles, and the groups start sounding like the Beatles.
I can imagine.
But still, it still can't be avoided that from the American point of view, we've had all the American stars coming over, Del Shannon, people like that. Sometimes the tours fail, sometimes they go. But the two top American disc stars who could have possibly ever visited England, I mean in his present day, would be Elvis Presley one, that would be completely fantastic if he came.
That's right.
And Buddy Holly would definitely be the next, I'm sure of it.
That's right.
So you can imagine all the stars around America, you can believe me, Buddy's got them licked quite easily. He's had so many hits. And
it was on the same program that Elvis was on, that Buddy got his opportunity for his first contract. He was.
I believe so.
Elvis came here.
Downtown.
We didn't have our Coliseum then, so it was out here at the Fair Park grounds. They had a big auditorium out there, and they had a big program. And Buddy at this time had been going out to the local radio station. We had 4 at that time, and KDAV, and putting on what they called the Sunday Party, a program. He and his boyfriend, Buddy had this kind of attitude. When the radio station opened up, they said, is there anybody in town who can put on a program? If there are, bring your guitar and come out, and we'll let you have a program. Well, Buddy and Bob Montgomery, that was his boyfriend at the time, they both front guitars, it was standard guitars, and sang. So they said, let's go out. They went out on Sunday afternoon then at the opening day, and they played on the program. And from then on, for over a year, every Sunday afternoon, a 15-minute program called the Buddy and Bob Show. Now that was Buddy's, he had the guts to do that, don't you see?
I read about that.
And
I read the show.
So when Elvis Presley came here on the program, well, all of the fellows out there knew it, and the High Pockets, one of the disc jockeys, says, I may get you boys a spot on the show.
Yes.
Well, okay, they says, fine. And of course they stood around holding their breaths with their fingers crossed, minding on the same program. So Buddy was on the program that night. Bob wasn't on it with him, but Buddy sang by himself. We've got a picture of him. I mean, he had on some little old faded blue jeans, and his legs out like this, you know, and got right up there with his
He used to like
guitar.
Elvis in them days, did he?
What is it?
He liked Elvis.
Oh yes, he did. He had met him, see, a few times when he came here. So
before Elvis was all that big, was that?
oh yes, when he first got started, he was real popular, just getting started, but not so big, just popular. Well, Buddy and Bob, when he first came, the first time he came, he knew no one, so Buddy and Bob went out and met him, got him in their car and hauled him all over town, and about 1 o'clock that night after the program, they were with him. They came home and they said, he sure is a nice guy, you know, we sure do like him. Well, after that, every time Elvis came to town, naturally, they'd go meet him. They'd go way out, if they knew he was coming in on the bus, they'd meet the bus way out there, and he'd get off the bus and get in the car with them, they'd come on into town. However, whether he still remembers
Did you
them
meet
or not.
Elvis? Did you ever?
No, never did meet him myself. But then Buddy was on this program that night, and Colonel Parker was there too, and he heard Buddy. And he had not yet signed Elvis Presley to a contract, but he was contemplating it. But so he talked to the disc jockey out there at the radio station and said, I sure like Buddy Holly. Well, they said, he sings with Bob Montgomery, and if you give him a contract, you'll have to give Bob a contract too. And he said, no, I don't want the other boy. I said, he's no good. I said, I want Buddy Holly. I said, I can see the talent there. So he went back to Nashville, that's where he was from, and in a few days a phone call came and said, have Buddy Holly cut a tape and send to us. Well, that was the result of Buddy's first contract with Decca. which of course just thrilled him to death. He was hoping for that someday, but it came totally unexpected to him.
Did Buddy record in New York?
Yes, with the Dick Jacobs Orchestra. He recorded
Doesn't matter anymore, Raining in My Heart.
Raining in My Heart, and It Doesn't Matter Anymore.
Oh,
and
That was
Wolverine.
when he was just beginning to kind of widen his scope.
Just right after he married. After he had been,
Were the group records recorded in New York as well?
no,
No,
no.
Where were they recorded?
They were all recorded, some of them in Oklahoma City, and most of them over here at Clovis with Norman Petty.
but his earlier recordings were at Nashville.
He went to
On
Nashville,
all these here, That'll Be the Day.
listened to me, and a bunch of things like that.
No, listen to
We
me.
didn't.
No.
This old That'll Be the Day LP, he made that in Nashville when he had his contract with Decca, don't you see? And they didn't like it. No good, you know. Rock and roll, they was trying to push rock and roll down right then. And Buddy was just crazy about it because Elvis Presley sang it. And
All these numbers were recorded in Nashville, I believe.
you know what they did with them? They put them in the can, did nothing with them until Buddy re-recorded That'll Be the Day over here with Norman Petty, and it made such a big hit. Then Decca immediately turned around and put these out, don't you see?
I think that LP was released over there on the Ace of Clubs or Ace of Hearts.
Is this That'll Be the Day? Is this the hit version?
That was the original version. That's not the hit version there.
Don't come on. Is Sue Parrish? Who's Sue Parrish?
She was a little girl that lived here, and she wrote songs, so she brought one to Buddy one day. And
I remember the Midnight Shift. Now that, somebody said when that was released in England as a single, that was a very early one.
yes, it was.
His Blue Days and Black Nights, that was his first recording. Is it on there?
Blue Days, Black Nights.
Yeah, that was his first release. The fellow that wrote it was up here visiting me yesterday. He lived on near Big Spring, Texas.
Phil, I'd like to tell you this. When he went to Nashville to record, they had their own style there in Nashville. Well, Buddy knew what he wanted, and they wouldn't listen to him. But, so he had some arguments with them. He said, I know what I want, but they disagreed with him, and whenever he insisted on some echo, they gave him too much echo, just purposely, see. They just did him that way as a new boy, just starting out. They didn't believe he'd ever succeed or do anything.
I know what you mean.
And that's what they did. Well, so when he went over to Norman Petty, Norman let him listen to him and let him tell him what he wanted. And Norman said, just as soon as he saw the potential, he said, I knew there was a musician there. Said he knew what he wanted. And Norman Petty said that Buddy was one of the best engineers, knew what he wanted in his music. He would tell them how he wanted this person to sing and that one to sing, and what he wanted the music to do, and when he wanted this guitar to come in, and that's the way he directed his recordings over there. Now he showed them how he wanted it done. And Norman recognized that, see, the ability there. Actually, Norman was setting up a big office over there for Buddy and wanted him to go in with him in all of his work. Do you plan on seeing Norman Petty?
No, I didn't. I catch the Greyhound at 5:15. I head for Los Angeles.
I wish we had known you were here last night. We went over to Norman Petty's and we would have liked
I
to.
came down twice yesterday.
We can call him on the phone and let him chat with him.
Oh, he can tell you an awful lot. Oh, he still worships the memory of Buddy, of course.
Would you like to speak to him on the phone?
That'd be very nice, yes.
You better catch his son. Actually, honey, he may be awfully busy, really. I think it would be nice if you could really be with him a while, and he would enjoy being with you.
When I was talking to Elvis Presley's sound engineer, he said that was so. I said, what happens if there's a disagreement? He said, well, Elvis has the say.
What is
So
it?
if there's a dispute about how a thing should go, who is boss? And he said, well, Elvis Presley. So I said, is that so with smaller or people just kicking off? He said, oh no, they do as we tell them. So I can imagine what you mean when you say that he had a hard job getting his own way, how he wanted it when he first started
with
off.
Norman Petty, Norman says Buddy's got a know-how that you don't find with other boys. He said he knows what he wants and says he's got an idea of what the teenagers want. He says what Buddy The ideas Buddy has will live on with the teenagers for quite some time. In other words, he was way ahead of his time with his ideas, and he and Jerry both definitely knew how to appeal to the teenagers. And I think so. I think you can tell that in his singing.
Yes. Oh, I mean, you can tell that it's definite. Do you feel as, well, I don't know whether everybody feels this way in England. People always say to me, oh, you're living in the past. But I feel that the great days have gone.
It seems so, it really does, Phil. I think so too. Naturally, I would at my age, but for you to say the same thing, perhaps a lot of people feel that way.
Yes. I feel that you say about when Elvis came into town, and they used to swing off the bus there and go downtown, and they'd go on a radio show, and they'd go on at the Coliseum, and they'd go on at the auditorium. Well, they don't do that nowadays, do they? I'm sure they don't.
No.
They don't have as much fun, do they?
No, they don't. Really, actually, Lubbock, actually, I don't know how about other towns, maybe a smaller town, maybe so, but not here. Lubbock has grown. See, we came here in 1925, that's how long we've been here. And actually, we have seen the town grow. Corners that if we didn't know the town so well, we wouldn't even recognize for the same place. And of course, it was the same way with Buddy. He was, and when Buddy got his start, it was a lot easier then. Actually, Buddy got some breaks that a lot of boys don't get. When he went to Norman Fetty says, I could see, I could see the talent there. And he said, I knew I had a great potential, and so naturally he hooked on to him.
Yes.
He was awfully hurt. They said that he, the night that he found out that Buddy was quitting him, he was really torn up, and because he had lots of plans for them, but actually he didn't want Buddy to marry. And Buddy met this little girl, and he said, I need a wife. He told me, he says, I need me a wife. He says, I'm 21, and he was at the time of his marriage.
Is Buddy's wife married again now?
Yes, she has. She didn't marry though till she asked our consent. She wouldn't. She phoned us up. She said, Mother and Daddy, I have something to ask you. Then she broke down and began crying. Now that was quite some time after Buddy's death. Well, I'll tell you, she was under the care of a doctor after his death, and I know the report got out that she wasn't even here, that she wasn't even concerned. But I'm telling you, that girl went into convulsions. She had one every 15 minutes for one whole 24 hours. And I have some pictures of her I'd like to show you directly, show you what a cute girl she was. They were very much in love. It was a very quick romance, but they were very happy together.
I often wonder whether as I say, I live in the past for these things, and I think of the great old days. Because I don't know Lubbock, I walked downtown last night and I couldn't find any life or anything, and I wondered whether it was like that when Buddy was, everybody seems to go to the movies and there doesn't seem to be any...
Actually, we have shopping centers out now. I don't know if you have that in England.
Out in the suburbs. I live in the residential district.
Downtown is almost forsaken now, right downtown. But we have a big shopping center here all over.
And the life is out there.
What is it?
The life.
That's right. The life is out there. And it is spread, and Lubbock has become a small city. Thank you.
But I couldn't find any record hops or dance halls or clubs where the teenagers go. You see in England, in America, the teenagers seem to leave rock and roll when they get a little older, about 21. But sometimes they go carry on collecting it in England, and even adults buy it. Sometimes there isn't any definite time for finishing up. But I get up, I'm a great pusher of these old tunes, and I get up sometimes in a club. I don't have the band at the moment, but when I had it, I used to get up in the club down in town, in Manchester, and I'd say, well, I look at the audience, and they'd be about 23, 24, and I'd say, well, I'd like to do a Buddy Holly number now called Peggy Sue, and they'd all remember it, and they'd all start shouting for Buddy Holly numbers, and that's quite true. I've had 800 people in front of me in a club, all wanting Buddy Holly numbers, one after the other, and I've gone through sometimes 9 or 10. Tell me how. I'm a lousy I'm lousy, you know, I'm not kidding, we're lousy compared with anything
Well, I
American.
bet you're not either.
We really are, and I can't sing for toffee, but I got away with it. But they wanted it, and that was the closest they could get to it.
It's that way here a lot now. There's a boy up here down Marilla who went on a big tour in the north, and he came back and he said, we just got to where when we went out, we just started putting on Buddy Holly numbers because that's what they all hollered for. And he says, in some of those clubs up there, says they have life-size pictures of Buddy. And he said, when you can draw a crowd as big as this boy drew, then we'll put your picture up here in life-size. But his was the only one in life-size. Now that's up in our way where the plane crash was. At that particular spot of our states, they have the nicest clubs for the teenagers. The parents attend with them, and it's a nice affair. Here in Lubbock, a club is something I don't go to, or anyone. It's an old dance hall is what it is, and as you notice, Lubbock isn't a wet town. It's dry yet. We have some, not far from us over here, but so I think we've kept Lubbock pretty clean, but they don't allow those clubs right in town for the teenagers. The college out here has their dances, and the girls and boys. We did have, at the time Buddy was playing, before he got his contract, he was playing all around Lubbock and in Lubbock for different functions, high school programs and things. Well, they had a little place out here called Teenage Center, and Buddy would go, and about every Friday night, I believe it was, and with his band, Jerry and Jovi and Buddy and maybe one or two other boys, and played the whole program while the teenagers danced. But they had to get the officers there to control things, don't you see? Yes. They couldn't...
What was Buddy's first really big engagement, do you think?
Well, now, speaking of just one performance, I wouldn't be able to say, but his program out here, the Buddy and Bob Show on the KDAV radio for over a year was, got him well known around Lubbock.
Yes, that's KDE.
KDAV.
I've heard that, I've read that mentioned in the News Express.
But his first real engagement was a tour with Hank Thompson on the East Coast.
A tour with Hank Thompson?
Mm-hmm.
They just called into Lubbock and wanted Buddy and his group to back them.
23-day tour out of New York and along the East Coast.
Days. That was the first time that Buddy started kind of moving out of the locality.
Well, I'll tell you what this was, Phil. Buddy wasn't the vocalist on this particular tour. Hank Thompson wanted Buddy and his group to back them up with, wanted them to back them up with his band. And
well, they had a spot too.
Well, did they? Well, I didn't know for sure. Yes, I guess they did. Yes, they did have a spot. I remember that.
Wanda Jackson and Hank Thompson, George Jones was on that tour also.
We know, I've heard of Wanda Jackson. She had a pretty wild number out one time in England, an Elvis Presley number called Have a Party. It was quite a big hit down there. We have a thing in the News Express which they call Lifelines. Buddy was in it in his early days, and they started bringing them out again, the earlier ones, repeating them.
Okay.
Buddy was in there again about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Do you get this every week?
We've missed for about 2 months now. And
this boy who was sending these to us was in an accident and was all broken up and in the hospital for quite a while.
Is he in the trade, or is he just a fan or something?
Peter Bradley. No, he's not in the trade. He's just a boy.
Is it the fan club? Is he the fan club?
Yes.
No, he's not. Johnny Beecher has the...
Oh, no, Johnny Beecher is the president of the fan club, but I believe that this boy belongs to it.
I see.
But he does get all of these. He's pretty interested in all of it, and he sends...
He mails us that package with a letter each week until he was doing that continuously until he had this accident. Now, this bunch we got a day or two ago, that letter said he would continue to mail them each week.
Yes. I suppose that you'd like to come across and see us one day, or possibly.
It's your opinion.
We talk about it very tentatively, however, I don't know. I'd like to, of course. I've said many times I would hate to disappoint them. Maybe they would be expecting to see somebody.
Well, if you came, you'd begin to realise possibly the extent of the fame of Buddy over England. Do you think that England is about the country that really goes for Buddy the most? Do you think?
Oh yes, that's true. Yes.
I looked through Billboard there, and
actually, we have. I'm going here and get this little slip that came from Oklahoma City that shows where his songs are in the charts. The interest has been revived quite a lot, Phil, in the States now.
Yes. First,
I would want you to bring that whole box of things too.
Today's
Yes, that's what I wanted to show him.
I wanted to meet Jerry Lewis in Memphis. He was out of town though.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
He's another favourite in England.
Is he?
And I walked into the Sun Records people, Sam Phillips, you know. And
Yes.
I met four people just walking along the corridor there. It's so easy over here in America. Scotty
Would you like
Moore.
to move over here?
No, that's all right. Let him sit there. He's got his head
Oh,
there.
Scotty
No,
Scotty
no.
Moore, the lead guitarist for Elvis Presley,
Uh-huh.
when he was big on tour. And I got all the jam on some of the early days with Elvis there, and he said he came through Lubbock once. I said I was coming to Lubbock next, and he said I came through Lubbock. And
Now this was Jerry Lee Lewis.
no, this was Scotty Moore, the lead guitarist. He
Yes,
said that
Scotty,
Buddy
I've
was
met
on the show with them. They did a show with Buddy down
We
there.
met Jerry Lee Lewis and Paul Anka and all of those boys, and of course Phil and Don Everly. And actually, at the time of Buddy's death, Phil was one of the pallbearers. He and his mother both.
No, he didn't get to remain.
Oh, that's right. He came.
They
That's
called him
right.
back
He
to
came. They called him back on important business, and he had to leave just before the services. However, but because all of that is kind of hazy to me now. No, this is from Oklahoma City, one of the large stations there, which shows what Brown-Eyed Handsome Man did there.
This is every city in America has their own hit parade. Is that it?
Yes, seems to.
Yeah. I did see something I was going to look at in here. I was passing through. Of course, I thought you'd probably have all the literature on Buddy that ever existed in England, or I could have brought you stacks of articles written out of the national newspapers and things like that. Would you be interested if ever I saw some that I thought you might
Yes,
be?
that we
your
really
book.
would.
Anything,
We're
anything like
eager
that.
for anything.
I'd more likely send you something from a national newspaper, which is, of course, like the New York Times, because
Do you really
there are so
okay?
many musical papers that write about Buddy. You're probably reading the same thing twice, you see. I was reading Billboard, I don't know if this week's, I managed to grab it at a newsstand, but where do we get these things? I get this every week.
Do you?
Yes.
We get it every week. I have every copy of Billboard magazine for the past 6 years.
Oh yeah?
and most of the cash box.
Well, I don't get Cashbox, I've read it. I don't find it as
This is
interesting.
Billboard is more correct.
We use the Billboard for...
Cash box is usually kind of more on the political order. I mean, if you get your name in there, you gotta have to pay for it or something.
Yes.
But
Well, the News Express prints Billboard charts.
do they?
News Express is the biggest musical paper in England. They do now 250,000 copies.
Do they?
They say here it's the largest in the world. I don't know whether that's so. Circulation. I should imagine they mean for teenagers.
Probably so.
I wouldn't, they have I had a quick scan through this last night and Buddy's name was in here. Have you read it?
Yes, the lion, and it's you, swimming. Looking for the English chart.
No,
Maybe you don't have the same copy there.
mine is probably a week old. You
19th, mine is.
no, mine is it's a different copy. Sometimes I can find the right page. It's something on the lines of what you just showed me. This is a trade magazine though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I'll tell you, Phil, you say the teenagers get those over there. The teenagers don't get these here. These are just mailed to the radio stations. Or someone, an artist.
Teenagers don't get billboard.
What is it?
They don't get this billboard.
Very few of them, they can, there's few newsstands that stop them there and buy them.
I've got
No,
this-
but you were speaking of these magazines over here being such big sellers. Now, they are mailed out to the teenagers, aren't they?
these
If they
are-
subscribe for
they
them.
get, you can buy these in any newsagent shop in the country.
Well, now you can buy these, but I'll tell you, no one really cares much for them except the disc jockeys and the artists themselves, or someone like us who...
Songwriters and,
Somebody who's in the trade.
Uh-huh.
Very keen, right, where they start to. Do you ever have any fans from America calling in on you?
What is
Do you
it?
get fans calling in on you from America? Fans or from
I think I understood you.
when you get somebody who is a Buddy Holly fan in America, say New York or anything like that, do you ever get them calling in on you when they're passing through Lubbock?
Oh, yes, quite often.
A lot of people.
Uh-huh.
Do the people around here, they all know your Buddy's parents, do they?
Yes, they do, Yes, there's not any of them but what do, and they all, I hope, like us. They're all awfully nice to us, and we, many of them go out to the cemetery and place flowers.
Is Buddy buried in Lubbock here?
Yes, yes, because actually, he hadn't been married but 6 months, and we look at it like this. We got a spot out there under stress. At the time, of course, we picked it not knowing or even caring, you know, especially about the spot. Well, we got a spot that was limited. I mean, there's restrictions on it, and the stone has to lie right flat on the ground, and it can't be but just so big. So I am very unhappy about it, because so many teenagers go out there and they say, wow, you know, but yes, he was buried out here, and
So don't think about those things, do you, though?
no, you can't, you really can't, at the time.
Must be here somewhere. It was in the breakouts, they call them.
yes, that was in last week, is,
Well, that's the one he has there, because he said he saw it last night.
It was in St. Paul.
Regional breakdown.
Is it St. Paul?
Yeah, St. Paul
When you
and
say-
You'll find it up in the upper left-hand corner of the page, I believe, someplace. I don't know, maybe they don't put them in the same place every time.
Of course, Bobby V in Bobby V's story of success, he always mentions that he came to fame because of the plane crash, because he stepped in on that concert tour.
Yes. Yeah,
Did you notice just the recent phone call made to Trini Lopez here in the States? He's going to maybe there now in England, and he got a call from one of the fellas on one of the papers, a phone call, and he told them that he was
Chris Roberts,
had
you
been a good friend of Buddy's a long time, and that Buddy was responsible for his getting started.
I didn't know that he was connected with Buddy.
Well, he did
I've
in
been out of
Dallas.
the country for 2 weeks,
He
and I've lost
his-
touch rather with what they say. I read every word. It takes me 1.5 hours to read that when I'm back home.
This year, Trini Lopez.
That's right. I've seen that LP in the.
Yeah, he's a personal friend of ours and lots of buddies also. And he was a student. My sister teaches school down in Dallas, and this boy went to school there.
Now, he went out to California to be the lead singer for the Crickets when they were trying to find another singer. And Jerry,
Is that so? I didn't know that.
yes,
Put that down. He's big, I think, at the moment in England. Number 1 or 2, or something like that. He's with Frank Sinatra's label, isn't he?
Yes.
Reprise label.
Yes, he's out there at number 4 at Night at Clanton. And he went out from Texas here.
At our suggestion, to be the lead singer for the Crickets. But Jerry was tied up with something and couldn't do anything for about 3 months, and Trini says, so I couldn't wait, I had to make some money. Us poor folks, don't you see, back in Dallas.
Yes.
And so he went to work at this club, and Frank Sinatra saw him and thought like his talent.
Don Costa, he's worked with Paul Anka a lot, hasn't he, Don Costa?
So he got his contract that way.
Of course, Buddy wrote for Paul Anka. Paul Anka wrote that tune that Buddy did. Doesn't Matter Anymore, didn't he? And also Bobby Darin wrote Early in the Morning, which Buddy had out in England.
That's
right. They write for each other.
Oh yes, they did. Oh, Buddy met them all sometimes. You see, and in New York, they'd all be there at times, and so.
Paul came down to. I remember reading he did that number which he wrote for Buddy on stage at Birmingham in England, and he said he'd like to do it as a tribute to Buddy, who was a very great friend of his. And also our top English person of the time in them days was a fellow called Tommy Steele.
Yes.
And I remember seeing him on the Palladium do the same number in tribute to Buddy. And of course Cliff Richards and the Shadows have done quite a few of Buddy's numbers on LPs at various times. That'll Be the Day, things like that. I think they have done that number. But if a group is a hit in England, they always end up with doing an LP, and it always has one of Buddy's numbers on, because you see they all have to incorporate them in the stage shows. Although the numbers, you still get 1 or 2 being brought out and being hits, but although they're not sometimes hits, they're always there in the foundation of any group in the country. It's founded on either Chuck Berry or Buddy or somebody like that in the early days. I can remember seeing groups that a few years ago that did nothing else but Buddy Holly numbers. They were really trying to copy them. And some people would even wear glasses to try and, even though they didn't need them.
Yeah.
I didn't need them. I don't really need these except for looking a long way or driving, you know. But these
Go
people
get those photographs in there, hon, and I want to show him some with Buddy without his glasses. And
there was one on an LP, I think.
yes, that one over there, Bill, against the wall, down on the floor, to the extreme left, over yonder, is one of Buddy without his
That's
glasses.
the one I've seen. Yes.
Well, that doesn't look like Buddy at all.
No.
It was very very different.
Is this your collection or Buddy's collection?
No, this is mostly what I've collected. Buddy never didn't have time. If I'd go out and get some records, well, he had quite a collection too, but when they moved to New York, well, he carried them up there.
I'll tell you what collection Buddy had. Ray Charles, Little Richard, and Mickey and Sylvia,
Chuck Berry.
and Chuck Berry,
And,
and the Ink
Chuck-
Spots long ago,
Chuck Willis.
and
Little Richard, that's interesting to hear.
Uh-huh.
Everybody I met liked Little Richard, very much indeed. When I was down in Memphis there, I don't think I met anybody else. I went to Sun Records to try and meet Jerry Lewis and met Scotty Moore, the guitarist there. I sat for an hour with him and he was playing all these solos he played on the Elvis records. And it's so easy over here. You couldn't do that in England. You couldn't walk into a recording studio and say, I'd like to. Well, I don't know whether you could. I have no interest in the English side of it anyway. But over here, everybody's been so friendly. Come in, yes, we'll show. All over the places I've been, and played guitars for me and everything. That's Joe B, isn't it?
Yes.
Who's that one?
That's Jerry Allison.
That's Jerry. And that one?
That was Nicky Sullivan. He dropped out of the group shortly after they made the hit out of That'll Be the Day.
So he was one of the originals?
he didn't go to England with them. He had just left the group when they went to England, so he didn't get to make that trip.
Now that's a Little Richard number. I don't know whether he wrote it, but he did it.
Send Me Some Loving.
Yes. It was on the back of Lucille, which was a hit for Little Richard. There's another photograph somewhere I've seen. Is that the same? That's the same three people, isn't it? Now there's another one up there.
When an artist came out with something that was just really good, something that you could tell an artist would do. Well, that was Buddy's favorite music. I mean,
That LP and this one has the same numbers on them.
The same people.
This was re-released about 3 years ago.
In this billboard, I was noticing that Buddy is the only rock and roll record that's been in the LP charts for anything like the period of.
Yes.
that's right.
Almost 3 years now it has been off the chart.
And the only other people who are matching it with are things like Johnny Mathis or
Yes.
Sound of Music, show tunes. There isn't another artist.
See, on this week's chart, it's climbing up more again, that same LP. It dropped way down here about 2 months ago.
It did, I thought.
See, last week it's 91, this week it's 84.
And how many weeks has it been on?
145 weeks.
145 weeks. Now that is really a record, don't you think?
Yeah, it was maybe on the field.
The only person who's come anywhere near, and this Rusty Warren, I wonder whether he was rock and roll. Is he?
No,
I don't believe you.
I'll tell you, no, she's a colored girl.
Oh,
Colored.
Blues and,
It's off the record recordings. They can't play them on radio.
so therefore, that confirms that Buddy is the only rock and roll singer who's had a record, anything like the number of years.
You won't ever hear any Rusty Warren stuff over radio because it's barred.
is it
Too,
really? Well, I didn't know
Too
that.
suggestive and everything. It's nightclub stuff. That's what it is.
Oh,
So that confirms it, doesn't it? The only other people are Sound of Music.
It does. Now, I've looked over that many times, noticing that particular thing.
And
myself.
that's the American public that are doing that. So that shows that there must be a really hardcore of people in America, although they're not. You can't see them. You've got to look harder. I suppose that's because of the population.
Phil, I'll show you something here about Billboard since they started in this week's issue. Every one of these, it shows this circle out here has sold $1 million for like that one, this one, and this one and so forth. They haven't got it on Buddy's yet, but should show up any time. $1 million seller, you see. Of LP.
Of an LP, don't you see? Which is something, I think, for an LP.
What does cost about $5, doesn't it?
Yes.
Mono's $3.98 here, then your tax makes about $4.06, and stereo's $4.98. It's a $1 difference in stereo and all.
Did you know people that were on the plane with Buddy, Big Bopper?
What is it?
Big Bopper and...
we hadn't met the Big Bopper
No.
personally.
And Richie Valens either, and this boy who was the pilot, he was just been married 6 months also, and he was 21. And what...
They say Elvis Presley won't fly because of he's frightened of things like that.
Is that right?
Yes. It seems to me that the world's been robbed through some reason of people with excessive talent in many cases. You get Buddy, and then this Richie Valens has quite a good following. He was apparently played the guitar as well. And we had a chap came over to England, and he made him very famous, Eddie Cochran.
Yes.
And he was killed in England in a road crash.
Shortly after Buddy.
And it seems that it's the people who not only sing the tunes, but play the guitars or instruments and write the tunes. In other words, they're talented in three directions. Whereas some people who just kind of sing anything anybody throws up, and they just go on and on producing this stuff out, and it's...
See, here a few months back down here close to Nashville, we had a plane crash, killed 3 stars.
The country western stars.
Yeah.
Was that Patsy Cline?
Patsy Cline.
Patsy Cline and Hawkshaw Hawkins and Johnny Ames.
I would like to tell Phil this, because
Right.
I don't know how you stand as to religion.
What's some of the
Yes, these are,
Church of England?
now this is before Buddy and the boys got started good, over in a friend's house. It's Buddy without his glasses, and these are some other poses that I think.
Is that Jerry?
That's Jerry, See, Buddy went over to high school and got him out of high school to play for him, and then Joe B was with another little group here, and all Buddy had to do was snap his finger, and they wanted to be in his
Did
band.
he play have his glasses on normally? Was it something he had to do, or did he just take them off to play?
He just took them off to have his picture made. I asked him, I said, you see, he didn't start wearing glasses until he was 15, and
How old would he be there?
he was 17. And so I told him lots of times, I said, hon, sometime have a picture without your glasses, because it seemed like he looked more like himself, but now he doesn't without his glasses. But then here are some larger ones. These were made in this particular house. Actually, it
Was this
doesn't...
in Lubbock?
Yes.
And Joe B went and bought a bass guitar.
You see their trousers here. They weren't wearing those tight ones then.
Well, how long had Buddy been playing the guitar?
Ever since he was about 14. He started
How
really...
could anybody get so good in such a short time, I wonder? You've got to be talented.
When he was 12, he decided he wanted to see... I know you've heard this report, that Buddy was taking violin and piano.
Yes.
Well, Buddy wasn't taking violin. He took violin when he was about 6 years old for about a few months, and he says, don't want it, don't like it, laid it aside. Well, after that he took piano, and he was real gifted on the piano. He could really play the piano. He could sit down and just play anything without the
I
music.
didn't know that.
But then he told us one day, he says, you don't know what I really want to play. And we said, no, we don't. What do you want to play? And he says, the guitar. Well, so his daddy took him down and started him taking lessons from a fellow who had this steel guitar.
Steel guitar. He got to play one of those real good.
So he argued with the fellow. He says, I don't want that. He says, I want to learn to play this kind of a guitar. He was 12 years old. So he
What was his first guitar?
it's right in here. Get it for him, let him show him. He put a cover on it. He covered it himself. He tooled the leather. He made his pattern out of brown paper. Then he went downtown, got his leather, came back and cut out his leather, and tooled it and covered his guitar with it. And has his first songs on it.
Buddy did all this.
He did that, He was really gifted for things. He could... Everything he did well.
That's a good guitar. Even so.
He used that a lot, working out arrangements, and he didn't use it on tours or anything.
This is a kind of
This was his first
acoustic guitar that
release,
you
Blue
could
Days,
use.
Black Nights,
Just what's called a box.
and Love Me on the other side. And he's put Texas down here, see.
This was his.
And for quite some time, they called him the guy from
That was
Texas.
the first recording, but
That was his first record out, Few Days Black Nights. It was written by Sue Parrish. No, Love Me was. You know, the girl that you spoke of a while ago.
I suppose these are the same strings, everything just as it was.
No, the
He already replaced them many, many times.
There's always written strings. This is his Stratocaster here.
Is that the original one?
No, he had took these stolen, on tours. He lost about.
Is this the one he was using at the time?
Yes, he had that. It wasn't on the plane, it was on the bus.
And Phil, I want to tell you, have you got on the watch that Buddy had on at that time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This particular watch he had on, and his wife had bought it for him. It has, how many diamonds around it? 42, I believe, something like
46
that.
diamonds.
Anyway, you know what? 3 months later, after the snow all melted from the ground, that was found there.
And you knew that, you knew the watch?
Oh, yes, And his gun. He carried a little gun with him. And usually had a little sum of money with him, because they usually put him in charge of the tours he was on, because, actually, Buddy was, he could command the boys, or tell them anything, and they'd do it. Well, they usually put him in charge, and,
Well, they must have respected him to do that, they must have known.
oh, well, they really did. He had a way about him, he could point his finger at you, and you knew he meant it,
Yes.
And, that's all he had to do to Jerry and Joe B is say, you boys.
Yeah, this was the watch that Buddy was actually wearing in the
This it was torn loose from off his wrist.
Yes.
And this German farmer found it 3 months later after the snow all melted that spring, and he turned it over to the sheriff up there at Mason City. And
Of course, they sent all of that to his wife, but she in turn sent it to
gave me
us.
the
She
watch.
said Daddy would like to have it.
Daddy, I want to give
Do
you.
you wear this now, do you?
Yes.
Then he had another watch that he alternates with whenever he is going to some kind of rough work or something, when he puts on the other one, but
I had that.
it needs
there
cleaning
when I
pretty
brought
badly
it.
right now.
But she wanted me to have it appraised and have it insured. I had it appraised, and the appraiser said it cost over $1,000.
Yes. That's fantastic. And this is the guitar that Buddy was using at the time. But we have these fenders over there, and everybody says they want fenders because, of course, they only know that Buddy Holly had one.
This year, boy, was Cliff Richard played his lead guitar. What's his name?
Hank B. Marvin.
Yeah.
Hank
I
B.
was up here at this year's show with him that night, and they're taking some pictures of us and him together. And he wanted to know if I still had Buddy's guitar, and I told him yes, and he wanted to know if I'd sell it. He said, I'll give you $1,000 for it if you'd part with it.
And actually,
Well,
I said, you got one just like it.
No, of course we wouldn't know a part of it. This was in the plane to, no,
this was in the bus.
No, this was in the bus. But someone had torn off the handle over there. Buddy had kept it real nice, but some, you know how guys are.
When the boys, when he hadn't used it the rest of the tour, some of them, I guess.
And you keep it in tune as well.
Well, he does.
What the, every once in a while, some artists from boys for a session.
They do?
A session, yeah. And,
Did it never cease to amaze you how good he was on the guitar?
it sure does.
Could you?
No,
could you sit and
actually,
watch-
to sit and listen now, we've got some tapes here where Buddy was playing and singing himself. Phil, just him and his guitar. This is where some of this new stuff's coming from. In New York, about 2 weeks before Buddy's death, he sat down. He had his own recording equipment. He had bought an expensive set from Norman Petty over here, and he had it in New York in his apartment. And he would sit down and sing and plunk his guitar and tape it off. Well, that's where we got this Wait Till the Sun Shines Nellie. I actually had told him many times, why don't you sing Wait Till the Sun Shines Nellie? Well, I didn't ever know that he was going to do it, but he had this on tape and his wife gave it to us. She said, take this, I don't know what's on it, I can't listen to them anymore. She said, see what it is. Well, we found all of these tapes on that. that we've been putting out. Now there was some question in England about whether it was really Buddy or not,
Yes.
but it was, and
I'll try it anyway. If you knew Peggy Sue, then you would know why I feel blue without Peggy. My Peggy Sue, well, I love you, girl. I want you, Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue, Peggy Sue, oh how my heart yearns for you, my Peggy, my Peggy Sue. Well, I love you, girl, I want you, Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue, Peggy Sue, pretty, 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 pretty Peggy Sue, my Peggy. My Peggy Sue, well I love you, girl, I want you, Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue, Peggy Sue, pretty, 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 pretty Peggy Sue, my baby, my Peggy Sue. Well, I love you, girl, I want you, Peggy Sue. I love you, Peggy Sue, when our love's so red and true, my Peggy. My Peggy Sue, well I love you, girl, I want you, Peggy Sue. Well I love you, girl, I want you, Peggy Sue.
Phil, we're sure glad that you got to play on it anyhow, but
Yes.
it's hard, we enjoyed your visit here with us.
I think you've do real good with it now. Why did you give it up, did you say?
The guitar?
Uh-huh.
Got a tape recorder. Well, I get some of these facts that are down here. Now I've got that part about going down to Clovis. And the first recording was Blue Days. What's that? First recording.
The first recording was Blue Days and Black Nights. And the flip side was Love Me.
Was that the first record that Buddy made?
Yes.
So does that mean that that one didn't get anywhere?
No, it was released, and but it didn't sell. They didn't.
It just made a little commotion around here.
Locally around Lubbock. And then the next one after that was That'll Be the Day.
No, the next one after that was Modern Don Juan, and that's My Desire.
See,
You Are My One Desire.
actually, Buddy had a contract with Decca for 6 months, and he cut several songs
12
in
months.
Nashville. What?
It was a 12-month
12
contract.
months. He cut several songs in Nashville, and actually they were pretty good, but Buddy was unknown and unheard of, and it's very hard to get off the ground with it. Naturally, when at the end of his contract with them, they did not renew the option with Buddy. Buddy went along for a few months, wondering what to do next. Then he went over here to Norman Petty, and the first big hit they came up with was That'll Be the Day. Now, he did record That'll Be the Day in Nashville for the Decca label, but they turned it down as something that wasn't quite suitable to put out. They didn't like it. Evidently, they thought the quality wasn't good, and maybe the song. However, after the song did make such a big hit with Buddy's new contract with Coral, which is a subsidiary of Decca, you know.
Yes.
Well, Then they, of course, wanted to put out their version of it, which they still had in Nashville. And they put it with several other numbers that Buddy had done for them and put them on an LP and released them. That is the
That'll Be the Day.
That'll Be the Day album by Decca.
Well, I must have never heard that one. That's by another vocal group, isn't it?
Yes.
We've got the one by the Crickets.
And several of those songs are of not such good quality.
As the proper hits.
That's right.
Mm.
And I can say this year, it was due to their failure to really help Buddy when he was there recording, because they didn't have much confidence in him, actually. That's what it amounts to.
So we know Buddy as being on Coral from the beginning. I suppose that he hit it with Coral. He was with Coral when...
The original hit, That'll Be the Day, was on Brunswick, of course, which is a subsidiary of Carl. They all three belong to Decca, really.
The Crickets are out on Brunswick, and Buddy Holly just by himself out on Coral. But it was the same group at each song, and performed at in the same way, same tempo and everything.
Now, the original Crickets were Buddy and Joe B. Maudlin, who you call Joe B. Right?
Yes, that's right.
And who else? Jerry Allison.
Yes.
And Nicky Sullivan.
Nicky Sullivan. Now he's the
That's
one that
Nicky.
passes. Nicky Sullivan.
N-I-K-I.
And that's the four of them there, and they're there again.
Yes.
Same four. And down there as well. They were the original boys.
That were the original.
And they're all
Crickets.
Lubbock boys, are they?
Yes.
Nicky pulled loose from them shortly before they came to England.
That's right, there was only three, wasn't there? Just Buddy, there was just the three of them.
Yes.
And Joe B changed from he used to play an ordinary bass, didn't he?
Yes.
And then he got a bass guitar when he came over with the Everly Brothers. Did he use that with Buddy at all?
Don't think so. No.
All Buddy's records were a string bass.
Yes.
I've often wondered about that. It was an instrument that came in a bit later, the bass guitar.
To be truthful about it, Joe B didn't record on very many of them himself. They had another bass man, George Atwood, who's a talented bass player, and he used a German bass on all their recordings. He never appeared with them in public.
But he liked his playing especially, and so when he would go to record with Norman Petty, he would request George Atwood to play the bass, and that's what they did.
And in these recordings, Buddy recorded mainly in Clovis, which is New Mexico, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
That's Norman Petty's studios. I wish I'd had time to go, but I don't know. It's a big country, and I've got a long way to go.
Yes, I wish you did have time.
They would sure enjoy a meeting.
I should imagine I would really go for meeting Norman Petty. I guess he could tell me a lot of the technical things and
Oh, yes, he could.
and incidents or laughs they've had.
They say he never lets out from speaking praise of Buddy.
Mm.
And even after the break, Buddy never allowed anyone to say anything about Norman Petty. I don't care what you said. He said,
Also,
he always said that.
these boys, the Fireballs and Jimmy Gilmer, are all personal friends of ours too,
Yes.
and we are looking forward to them making the tour of England.
I'd very much like to meet them. If they come to England, I'll try to meet them. I'll try and get along
They're
there.
really nice folks.
They're, each and every one of
They
them
had a hit
are
over
very
called
talented.
Quite a Party, an instrumental number
Yes.
they did, and it was quite a hit in England. So that was the original Crickets then. Now, did they remain at three then, the boys? Just the three of
Just
them?
all the time until the split.
Who does the vocalising on the Such as That With the Day? Do the boys do it as well as, you know?
No, they had in recordings while they used some local talent here on the earlier recordings where they're using vocal backups, and they were the Pickering brothers, Bill and John Pickering, and then later on they used the Four Roses, some that was with Trini Lopez for a while.
Oh, and Trini was, Trini says, but he gave him at the start in show, didn't he?
Buddy didn't, it was just instrumental in keeping him built up, his ego built up, and advising him and showing an interest in him. He didn't have any financial interest in him other than just a friend, you know.
No.
He gave him a pull every time he could.
I guess that's the way most people get started. If they meet people who can give them a helping hand on there.
That's right.
Now, we know about Buddy and Bob had the show on KDAF. That's the local.
KDAV.
V like in vacation.
KDAV.
Yes.
KDAV. That's the local radio station.
Mm.
And his first tour was with Hank Thompson, a 23 East Coast backing part and also a spot of their own.
Mm.
And as regards England, Buddy liked England better, touring England better than the States. The kids will be glad to hear that.
Yes.
Very much indeed.
Also Australia, he enjoyed the short tour they had in Australia.
You like that as well?
Yes, 5 days over there. Of course, it was very hurried and a rather long trip.
Yes.
They stopped over and played Honolulu one night on the way. Then went on into Australia for 5 days.
Incidentally, Phil, this particular LP right here, that picture was made on the way to Australia. That is the airplane window, and Buddy was sitting, the reminiscing LP up there.
Oh, I see that.
That he's sitting in the airplane window, and Norman snapped a picture of him, and that is exactly the photograph that he made.
He was
Oh, you've
just
got that
relaxed.
reminiscing one out in England. I didn't know that.
Well, that's what that is. And Norman said at the time he was going to use it on an LP cover. And that's what that is. That's the little opening you see there in the light part is
Yes.
the airplane.
That's while they're flying over the ocean.
Did we have lifelines in the Newsreel Express? You might have seen Buddies, I don't know, and they'd say favourite artist, favourite drink, favourite colour, parents' names and everything like that. So I guess they've got everything on that. But you,
I noticed some of it has been wrong. It was
Yeah.
a little thing. It didn't amount to a whole lot. For instance, they said he had named a certain kind of car that he had, which he didn't have. He had a Cadillac, then he had a Continental, and then he had another Cadillac. That was his last one.
Who did he prefer? Did he say to you who he liked as regards artists? Besides Ray Charles, who was probably the most favourite, was he?
Elvis Presley was one of his favorites.
Elvis.
He really was.
And he met him downtown. And did he like Little Richard, didn't he?
Yes, he liked Little Richard very much.
We have an artist over there which I feel Buddy would have liked. He's been with us 4 or 5 years now. He was one of your American, Gene Vincent. Do you remember him?
Yes, Gene Vincent. And
Did he ever say he liked Gene?
Oh yes, he liked Gene really
yes,
well.
Gene was a little bit younger, I believe, than Buddy, and they were both coming up about the same time. And in fact, they worked not in on same recordings, but they'd be over at Clovis together at the same time, you know, and mixing, mingling
When we
around.
get off the air directly, I'll tell you something about that.
Yes.
About Buddy and Gene.
I'll make a note of it then, so that you won't forget to tell me. I won't. And Eddie Cochran is another favourite in England. Did you know? Have you ever liked Eddie Cochran?
Yes,
I tried to find out if
he liked Eddie Cochran. I think Buddy was on tour with Eddie Cochran quite a bit. And he also liked Jimmy Rogers, which he never toured England on. I don't think.
If it's the Jimmy Rogers I'm thinking of.
And Bobby Darin, he liked him.
You like Bobby Darin? Bobby goes down. He doesn't have any hits lately in England since
No.
Bobby didn't go down too well in England because he was a bit boastful, and the English don't like people who are
Yes.
boastful.
That's
No,
right. That's right. Buddy met him before this all happened, when he was just trying to get started, and he liked him real well.
And he toured with young Paul Anka and Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, still going in them days, were they?
Yes.
He toured with Frankie Lyman.
Yeah, Frankie Lyman was very popular at that time.
What about Bill Haley? We credit Bill Haley with starting the rock.
Yes, Buddy and the Everleys were on a short tour down in Florida at one time with Bill Haley and the Comets. And they at that time we had quite a bit of write-up in one of the trade papers. And the Everlys and Buddy were, of course, lesser known at that time than Bill Haley was.
Yes.
But this write-up and everything, well, they worked out that there's all billed separately, you see. Buddy and the Crickets are separate and the Everlys are separate, but they combined the act together. And they stole the show down there from Bill Haley.
Did they?
Yeah. And
Bill Haley was the inspiration of Cliff Richard. Well, Elvis Presley is Cliff Richard's idol, but Bill Haley, Cliff Richard saw him on the show. What about somebody like Chuck Berry? He's credited with a lot in England.
Yes.
Do you think he influenced?
Yeah, I think so, because Buddy was on 2 or 3 different tours with Chuck Berry, and they worked together. I mean, backstage and trading. In the trade, you know, while they get backstage in the dressing room, they trade ideas and so forth. And
we have Bo Diddley over there now, and he met Buddy, I think.
Yes.
I'm told he met Buddy, and Buddy recorded one of Bo Diddley's tunes.
Yes.
That's right.
Bo Diddley.
Bo Diddley, that's it, isn't
Bo
it?
Diddley, that's it.
That was a hit over in England, a reasonable hit, I think, over there.
Actually, Buddy liked a certain type of song, you might say, is what was the result of the artist he liked. I mean, he didn't like the artist if he didn't like their song. He liked the boys personally, all of them. But as far as his favorite artist, the song played a very big, important part on whether he liked a certain party or not. Now, he liked the way Ray Charles sang, and a lot of the colored folks were Buddy's favorite singers because of the type of songs they sang. That was the thing, don't you see?
He had Ray Charles records.
Yes.
You can remember them playing them type
That's
of
right.
records.
Oh,
Ray
yes.
Charles.
You remember this one, My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, that Ray
Yes.
Charles sings? Buddy could sing that. Really pretty. And I had so hoped that he would record it himself. He could sing it like Ray Charles.
Phil, one of Buddy's great ambitions was in his last year or so was to get a hillbilly band, what we call a hillbilly band.
I've heard it mentioned.
And all colored artists, hillbilly colored artists.
Yes.
And he said, and he believed he could have the most terrific band in the world with them because they understood rhythms much and could just natural with them, you know.
Comes naturally.
And he really enjoyed just being around them, listening to them, you know, their rhythm and their talk.
What is this
the
Tex-Mex
drifters.
sound then that we hear mentioned? Is that the same?
Actually, that cropped up surprisingly to me. Actually, it seemed to me that that sound was already in some singing. However, it's credited to Buddy.
It's mostly the style of guitar that Buddy used, you know. See, it's not very far to the border of Old Mexico, and the Spanish people have a type of guitar playing all their own, and you can notice when Buddy's playing it, it drifts into it every once in a while.
Sometimes.
And
Did he use one of these things wrapped around the thumb, kind of plectrum style, or pick, as you call them, or did he use a flat plectrum?
Just a flat plectrum. He very seldom used a thumb pick.
and I think perhaps too, this Tex-Mex expression might
It's credited.
might be from the fact that Buddy lived just across the border from New Mexico
Well,
and Texas.
I've heard it
and
associated
recorded.
with Buddy.
That's
I should
right.
imagine that when people mention Tex-Mex sound, they say rather in the Buddy Holly idiom. In other words, as though Buddy kind of invented it.
They have a distinctive styling of their own. It seems to bring in a guitar especially, bringing tone out, definitely.
Yes.
And that may be what you had in mind when you're talking about the metallic sound of Buddy's guitar or something like that.
Very kind of
That's-
steely.
Mhm.
Very
Oh,
friendly.
actually, Phil, I used to notice that a lot when Buddy first started playing that way. And I didn't like it at first, but I soon found out all of the young people liked it. And it appealed to
It's
them.
a penetrating
and it
sound
in
that
other
registers
words,
with you.
it was a new sound. It was among the bands, I noticed. I noticed quite a few of them playing that way. Well, so I got to where I liked it. It sounded better to me after a while. But that was the...
It was something that was associated with Buddy's guitar only. It didn't usually
Well,
come in
now,
later.
do you like the sound?
I love it. I
You
mean,
do?
it helps to make it for me.
Well, Buddy did too, and I used to think that that it was a mistake he was making because I wasn't used to that sound. But I found out he wanted that sound. That was what he was trying for, and he got it. I noticed that. And as I said before, I've got to where I like it now. It sounds all right.
Well, I personally like the early Buddy hits. I know that they're doing a good job on these tapes out, but there's nothing can really lick the way Buddy would have done it and didn't do on the early ones. Frankly, you probably be with me on that. Those early hits, it's so easy and that, where it was Buddy playing the guitar. And
I'll tell you one thing. This hiccup sound, I think that Buddy...
invented.
Yes, to a certain extent. I've heard other singers do it,
Oh, yeah.
but I think that it was more noticeable when Buddy did it.
I tell you, the
And it was
party,
natural with him.
If anybody does that in England, they say it Buddy Holly style, so it means that he says baby as well, doesn't he? Have you
Uh-huh.
ever heard him say that?
yeah.
Baby. I don't know whether he meant to say that or whether that's the way you speak down here.
Uh-huh.
But we had Adam Faith recording a tune, trying to do it in the Buddy Holly style early on in his career, and he said baby as well, you know. And if anybody uses that word now, then it's credited to Buddy.
I see.
Well, the only other natural artist that I know of, it's really a natural of that hiccup, is Brenda Lee.
Brenda Lee. She does.
And I don't think she was trying to copy anybody, it's just a gimmick that she had, just the same as Buddy had, you see.
Yes.
And so many of them have tried to copy it, couldn't quite get it in there because it was an unnatural sound.
Have you noticed that Buddy, he didn't put it in too much in a song,
No.
but he knew just about the right place to put it.
And when he used it, he'd just float right on out of it into the melody, and
He knew just where to use it. No, that was part of being gifted, wasn't it? On that tour of England, incidentally, did you ever hear him mention any English artists that he admired or appreciated in any way?
I think he liked Adam Faith because actually we hadn't heard of a lot of them at that time because we weren't keeping up with the...
he liked Steele. I
music
heard him.
that-
Yes, well, actually, Adam Faith wasn't going then, so he wouldn't have known him.
Maybe not.
But Tommy
Maybe
Steele
not.
was. You
Well,
mentioned
Yes,
Tommy Steele.
yes, he mentioned Tommy Steele as being an outstanding artist.
Well, he is. In them days, Tommy was probably one of the few.
Mhm.
And I should imagine that he would mention it. It was about March 1958 when he did that tour. He didn't come to Manchester. I think he did Cardiff and Derby and a few more like that.
don't you think that the last few years that England has come very much to the front with their music and with their artists, and they're better known. So you see, and two, we are taking more interest in it than we used to
Yes, yes,
several years
yes.
ago.
Well, as I tell you now, we have the large percentage of the hit parade now, whereas the Americans had it in the old days. Personally, I'm not anti-British, and I think that there are certain records where the British are just as good, but I do prefer American. I think on the ballads and things, with the English, us English can do probably as well, but when it comes to what I call soul or feel music, a real music that is a heritage kind of thing, I don't think you can really do that with about 8 years of rock and roll, which is all we've had, or rhythm and blues, whatever they call it. They give it different names over there. It's the same stuff as far as I'm concerned, but they call it rhythm and blues and rock and roll and twist and Madison. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And we know that,
I
don't we?
think so too. I really do.
But over there in England now, as I say, we've got the Beatles. They credit, they give a lot of their, they say a lot of their music comes from Chuck Berry's style of thing. But you can ask any one of the top groups in England who influenced them or whose numbers they used to do, and they'd say, well, Bill Haley, Little Richard, Buddy Holly. Them three names really are coupled together more than any other in England.
I see.
They will eventually, some of them develop a style and feel of their own to get the feeling in there into the expression themselves, you see, and then make it.
You were speaking of rock and roll singing. Actually, and I have thought a lot about this, and I heard Paul Anka express it this way once. He said, well, actually, what do we call rock and roll singing? He said, it is really the expression of the young people as they like it, and instead of rock and roll. So there really is no rock and roll. It's just an expression and of singing and a way of singing that appeals to the young people now. And I think that's more or less what it is, don't you? There is a certain kind that's classed as rock and roll, but
Yes.
I hardly know where the change begins from rock and roll to the
I can't tell
rockabilly,
myself,
the rockabilly,
yes.
or the pop.
The lines of definition are becoming even harder and harder every day
They
to
are.
define. Where does country western go commercial and become commercial country western or rock and roll, or where does it vary into folk music? I've spoken to two people on this, Eddie Arnold and a few, and they can't really define it. I asked everybody I met, I asked them what rhythm and blues was, and everybody gave a different answer.
That's right.
So I don't know. I don't think you should be tying down too much on this. Everybody has their own idea.
That's right.
I feel myself, as regards rock and roll, that there was a certain group of people in America who started rock and roll. They'll always be remembered as the original greats. It's so in England, it's a fact.
Yeah.
They'll always be remembered as the greats. They all play rock and roll, but they have different styles of rock and roll. I think that to cover the vast majority, you can say the Elvis Presley, probably the king as regards success. Bill Haley as regards just beat music and
I
good
think so, too.
instrumental. Little Richard as regards out and out wild stuff.
That's right.
And Buddy Holly, a whole class of rock and roll and style of his own, completely his own style. And he's definitely one of the legends of rock and roll, and always will be. There's no doubt about that. And that's
It
how
all
it's
boils down
considered
to
in
the
England.
fact that
I don't know about America, but that's the way we feel of
it
it.
boils down to the fact that truly good artists in it is just expressing their own inward feelings, I think.
That's it. I think that you can't copy other people.
No.
You can be influenced by them, but we had a whole spate of groups copying Buddy at one time. It was a compliment to Buddy, but it was no good to them. And we had a whole group people copying Cliff Richard and the Shadows for 2 or 3 years, all with echoey guitars. And now we have a whole series of groups all copying the Beatles. Well, I don't like to do that.
No.
I'd like to play my own.
That's
I'd like to try and force it on the kids. If they don't want it, that's hard luck. They have to leave the dance hall. Unfortunately, they do. But I like to play what I like, and hope that one day the kids will come around to my way of seeing
At
it.
least like your particular style.
My particular style is like Bill Doggett. I mentioned Bill Doggett to you. Honky Tonk Buddy did it there. I have a couple of tenor saxes and that. I don't have a group now, but I used to play this all over the place and nobody went for it. They didn't know what it meant to play the blues or anything, and I suppose we weren't very good anyway. But I'd still prefer to play for my enjoyment rather than go along and play any one particular artist all the way along. Although in my early days I played nothing else but Little Richard and Buddy Holly in my early days.
Well, Bill Black has been pretty successful in his own style of recording too.
Yes, he hasn't.
In the States.
He hasn't hit it so much. I was in the studios down there where he records. He had one in England. He recorded the Elvis Presley "Don't Be Cruel," an instrumental version. I think he had it here. But is he quite successful over here?
He was for a while, and I look for him to come back stronger because I think he's going to develop a more or less of a style of his own, like Bill Doggett did.
Yes.
Which he'll need to do instead of just following a pattern all the way through.
Yes.
Like Ace Cannon and Bill Black are very similar in their recordings, I think.
Yes. Going back to Buddy, now he knew Trini Lopez, the chap.
Yes.
Now he was very good friends. Was he from around this area?
Trini was reared in Dallas, Texas, and he started out like Buddy did, playing locally in the high school places, and then in 1957, when That'll Be the Day was making a big hit, I was working in Wichita Falls, which is about halfway between here and Dallas.
Yes.
And the NCO club at the Shepherd Air Force Base where I was employed booked Trini and his bunch to come up there and play 2 or 3 times while I was working there, and I met Trini. And then I found out that he had been a student of my sister's down at Dallas in the schools. And he was already admiring Buddy's style, and I even gave him some sheet music of That'll Be the Day and a record, and just built him up quite a bit, and he kept on then until he finished high school and got out, and he had a contract with King Records for a good while.
Yes.
And they issued quite a few releases, but they never did do very much. Then he went over to Clovis and stayed over there a while, and Norman tried to get something out for him. It would be a success. And then Trini went back to, he couldn't get off this King label, and he had signed a long-term contract, and he kept sweating it out and playing around Dallas and different places, and he came up here and played at a local club here for about 3 or 4 weeks, and they called him to come to Hollywood, and he canceled his engagements here and went on to Hollywood and started playing that club out there. Then from there,
But he was going there at the suggestion of
I'd advised him to go
several
out there myself and see if, because I knew the Crickets were needing a vocalist at
They've
that
had one
time.
or two vocalists, the Crickets. We never managed to keep up with who they have got.
No, they had Earl Sinks and this year
Earl
David
Sinks.
Bops and different ones, you see, and kept on. And so I told Trini he might get out there and get to working with them and come up with something.
Yes.
But in the meantime, Jerry was disabled for a broken arm or something, and he couldn't play or anything. Trini started playing at this club then, and that's where Don Costa and Frank Sinatra got a hold of him. He's gone.
And that's where he's hit it big now.
What is the song now that the Crickets came out with that everybody thought it was Buddy for a while? That Love's Made a Fool of You?
Yeah, Love's Made a Fool of You.
We get letters asking about
We
that.
have,
That's
we have a
Buddy's
master
singing.
on that. Buddy made a complete master, and it'll be released later on.
Of that song.
Yeah, Love's
But
Made a Fool
it
of You.
fooled a lot of people.
And
as
Bobby
it
V came out on it, and the Crickets came out on it.
Certainly. Bobby V did an album with the Crickets, did one or two Buddy numbers on it, I think. One or two Buddy's numbers on that
But
album.
we have the master like it was made. It wasn't no dubbing in or anything. Of Love's Made a Fool of You.
But I've had letters asking about it, and that's one thing that I had wanted to tell them that is not Buddy singing on that. It sounds like it, and it fools a lot of people, and we even had some letters saying we bought the record of Buddy singing Love's Made a Fool of You, which wasn't Buddy, but they thought it was. And
Are there any other errors that you've seen misquoted? Are we still going?
Just about out.
Are we just about out? I just wondered if there were any more errors, statements or anything that we... Well, good evening, listeners. My name's Phil Henshaw. You'll probably be able to tell by the accent before I finish that I'm from the north of England, Cheshire, and I'm on a tour of the States, which I've saved up for myself to visit mainly musical centres all across America, from New York to California. At the present time, I'm in Lubbock, and at this present moment I'm speaking to you from the home of Mr. and Mrs. Holly, Buddy Holly's parents. I'd like to describe the room I'm in at the present time for all the fans that are in England and probably wouldn't ever get the chance to be out here. Down here on the carpet in the room here is Buddy Holly's amplifier, the original amplifier which Buddy was using on the dates at the time, and also another amplifier which he led out from. Also is Buddy's guitar, a Fender guitar which I've been playing myself personally. On the wall, along on the wall, is a golden record for Peggy Sue. I believe there's another golden record, but Norman Petty keeps that at Clovis. Also our Buddy's LPs, Reminiscing, Buddy Holly Story and several others, EPs and singles, the whole collection, most of which we have in England, and also the original guitar which Buddy first bought, a Spanish style guitar. Around the guitar is a leather case which Buddy actually made himself, among other things, with Buddy's name, Buddy Holly, right across the front there. This was the guitar that he originally used to play. With me here is Mr. and Mrs. Holly, of course, and I'd like to ask now Mrs. Holly to say a few words to to all English fans who would like to hear and who perhaps Mrs. Holly hasn't managed to get around to answering all the letters, but she'd like to make this by way of a personal message to each and every one of them.
I'm very glad to have the opportunity of sending a message of thanks to all of Buddy's fans in England. We get many letters from them, and I have wished many times that I could speak to each one personally and let them know just how much we enjoy hearing from them, just what it means to us to know they still remember and love Buddy's songs. It is almost an impossibility to answer each letter we get, and I hope this message of appreciation will be a personal message to each fan, that they may know how this tribute of their love and memory to Buddy has brought happiness to us, his parents. We have noticed also that Buddy was voted number 6 male singer in your worldwide popularity poll again this year, and how 2 of his songs were voted in the top 10 poll. Many, many thanks to you for this wonderful tribute. We would like to continue getting your letters, and if we can't answer each one, we hope you will receive this message with our love.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. And I'd like to have a few words which I'm sure Mr. Holly would like to say to all the listeners.
Well, Phil, we're entirely grateful for you to be able to get this message over to our great number of friends over in England. We esteem them as our very highest asset, really, because they have been so great in helping us to carry on after Buddy's fatal death. And it's made us seem more closer to the English-speaking people of the world, and especially England itself, due to the fact that we receive such a tremendous amount of mail from over there. That makes us appreciate England more so than nearly any other country in the world. However, we do know that Buddy is popular all over the civilized world, and we're very glad to know this. And again, I'd like to say thanks to Phil Henshaw for visiting with us here in our home in Lubbock.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Holly. I've been made really welcome, and I'm pretty sure that anybody else that comes along out here and can manage to get to see you will be very, very gratified and surprised at the wonderful welcome which they will receive, I know, from you. Thank you very much indeed. Well, hello listeners. My name is Phil Henshaw, and I come from Cheshire in the north of England. You'll be only too aware of that after a while with the accent etc. I'm on a tour of America from New York to California, which I saved up for. I'm touring cities and musical centres with regard to meeting artists and people that we've had records released in England. At the present time, I'm in Lubbock, and I'm speaking to you at this very moment from the home of Mr. and Mrs. Holly, Buddy Holly's parents. For all the fans in England, I'd like to describe the room here that I'm standing in. It's really fantastic. First of all, down here there is Buddy's amplifier, which is the amplifier he was using at the time of the plane crash, and Buddy's guitar, the Fender guitar, which we all know he used, and also a guitar which Buddy started off playing with, a Spanish style guitar here, with a leather case around it. I believe Buddy made this himself. He was very good at leather work. He's put Buddy Holly across this, and it looks very well made indeed. Now, along here up on the wall, we have a gold record for Peggy Sue. There is another gold record for That'll Be the Day, which is kept by Norman Petty, whom we all know in England, of course. It's kept there at Clovis at the studios. We have various records here. Buddy Holly's Story, the LP, which has been in the American charts now for close on 3 years, which is quite a record. And we have Reminiscing and the Buddy Holly Story number 2. And we have various LPs other than these, and EPs, singles, most of the records which we have in England, in fact. Now, I'd like to introduce to you now Mr. and Mrs. Holly, starting with Mrs. Holly, I'm sure that all the host of fans in England would like to hear thanks from Mrs. Holly for all the letters they've been writing. I'd like just now to introduce Mrs. Holly.
Thank you, Phil. I'm very glad to have the opportunity of sending a message of thanks to all of Buddy's many fans in England. We get a lot of letters, and I have wished many times that I could speak to each one personally and let them know just how much we enjoy hearing from them, just what it means to us to know they still remember and love Buddy's songs. It is almost an impossibility to answer each letter we get, and I hope this message of appreciation will be a personal message to each fan, that they may know how this tribute of their love and memory to Buddy has brought happiness to us, his parents. We have noticed also that Buddy was voted number 6 male singer in your worldwide popularity poll again this year, and how 2 of his songs were voted in your top 10 poll. Many, many thanks to you for this wonderful tribute. We would like to continue getting your letters, and if we can't answer each one, we hope you will receive this message with our love.
Thank you very much indeed. And now, Mr. Holly, I'd like very much if you'd say a few words to the English listeners, please.
Yes, thank you, Phil. And we were greatly surprised today when we were called by this young gentleman from England, Mr. Phil Henshaw, which we are very glad that he did take time to come by and visit with us. It's been a great day in our lives to have one from the land of England to be visiting in our home with us and telling us how greatly Buddy was appreciated over there. Now at this time, we also want to offer our thanks again, if I may repeat it, to Johnny Beecher and the various fan clubs that spring him up all over Europe and Canada and various other places and writing to us, and the fans are writing to us from all over these parts, but especially to England. They seem to be more loyal to Buddy than any nation in the world, and we appreciate every bit of this. Thank you again, Phil.
Thanks a lot. In mentioning Johnny Beecher now, I noticed that Pride and Presidents here on the wall is the Buddy Holly Appreciation Society, Leatherhead, Surrey. That's quite a compliment to the English fans in general. I'd like to say very much I've enjoyed my stay out here, and if any English cats ever get out this way, they can call in. They'll be very surprised at the wonderful welcome that they receive. More than wonderful. It's been really fantastic day in my life anyway, and I thank you very much indeed. Well, hello listeners, my name is Phil Henshaw, and as you can probably tell by the accent, I'm from the north of England. I'm on a tour across America, mainly for musical purposes, and I've been meeting some very interesting people. Just now I'm standing in the house of Mr. and Mrs. Holly, Buddy Holly's parents. I'd like to describe the room to you, and then I'd like to introduce Mr. and Mrs. Holly along to say a few words to all the fans in England. Just on the wall here we have a gold record which Buddy won there for Peggy Sue, and we have all the LPs around the wall, Buddy Holly Story, Reminiscing, and we have some guitars up on the wall here which seem to be plaques of some description made of brass or metal. We're also right in the middle here the Buddy Holly Appreciation Society from Leatherhead in Surrey, which shows how much Mr. and Mrs. Holly really appreciate the fans and societies in England. I also have down here on the right is Buddy Holly's amplifier, the original amplifier down here, and most of the tapes in the sideboard here, all the tapes of Buddy singing his guitar alone, which were recorded in New York, in the apartment and here at home and around and about Lubbock. And we have a whole host of EPs and singles which Buddy recorded out here and which we all know in England. Personally, I've just been playing Buddy's guitar, the Fender, which is plugged into the amplifier here, and I've also been looking at Buddy's first guitar, I think, the original Spanish style, which has a big leather cover around it saying Buddy Holly on it, which Buddy made himself. Also in here in the room with me is Mr. and Mrs. Holly. I'd like to ask Mrs. Holly now to say a few words to all the English fans who must have written over the years, and would like to hear from her. Would you like to say something, Mrs. Holly?
Well, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to say a few words. I've wished many times that I could speak in person to each one who has written to us, each boy and girl. We get many, many letters, and we're very grateful. Actually, words can't describe our gratitude and appreciation for the love and loyalty which they have continued to show, and their friendliness to us. We feel that we don't deserve any of it, but we're very glad to have their letters, and it's almost impossible for me to answer each one of them, but I have wished that I could speak to them personally and just tell them how much we think of them, and what it has meant to us that they have remembered Buddy, and that they like his song so well. It has been a great boon to us. Actually, it's the main thing that has kept us going, and we appreciate it very much. We'd like to have more letters. We'd like to hear from them more often, and even though we can't answer them all maybe personally, I would like for them to hear this particular message which we send to them with our love. I also would like to say a special thank you to Johnny Beecher, the president of the Buddy Holly Appreciation Society in England. His work has been very far-reaching, evidently, from the mail we've had, reporting other fan clubs springing up, branch clubs off of the large one in England. We think he's done a tremendous job, a great job, and we thank him very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Holly. Now, Miss Holly, I wonder if you could give us a few words for the listeners in England.
I would like to add that we really have enjoyed this visit with Bill here in our home, and feel that we are being highly honored with someone here across the sea from us to take time out in their life to come by and visit with us and talk to us and tell us how they appreciate our son over in England. And we might also add that not only in England, but also all over the European continent and into Australia and various other places that we receive mail from continually, and record sales shows that Buddy's records are going out all over the whole entire civilized world. And he does have a great following, which we do appreciate very much. It's not so much for financial gain as it is, it just does our heart good to know that he's living on in the hearts of the other people and minds of the other people all over the world.
Well, I'm sure the English kids will be glad to hear that. Thank you for that. I enjoyed my stay out here. I've been made very welcome, and I'm sure that if any English kids ever get along Lubbock way, Texas way out here, and they call in on you, you'll be very glad to see them. I shouldn't imagine many will. They don't manage to get out.
Well, we can tell by the tone of the letters that they would really enjoy it, and we would really enjoy having them visit with us at any time. And we also appreciate all the trade papers in England that publicity that they have given Buddy, and we feel by them keeping on with it that they do feel that he was a true artist and not just teenage idol.
Yes, well, I'm sure they do. I really am. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Wait a minute.
This conversation was recorded here in Lubbock, Texas on Friday the 18th of October 1963. Thank you.
I would like to take this opportunity to say thanks to the Saturday Club and its listeners, a program which I understand originates over BBC each Saturday. We, the parents of Buddy Holly, are very grateful to them for including his songs in the program, and we feel that this is doing much to keep them so popular.
We sincerely hope the future releases by Buddy will receive the same welcome. So again, we say thanks for the wonderful tributes to Buddy.
Wishing that I could see you every day. Wishing that I could steal your heart away. Dreaming of the time I can hold you tight. Wishing that the time would come tonight. I've been hoping all along things would turn out right. If I could find a wishing star, then I would spend the night wishing that I could see you every day. Wishing that I could steal your heart away. I've been hoping all along things would turn out right. If I could find a wishing star, then I would spend the night wishing that I could see you every day. Wishing that I could steal your heart away.